Something has been decided, not by you, not by circumstance, not by the slow drift of two people moving in the same general direction without intention, by them deliberately, consciously, with the particular quality of resolution that only arrives after someone has been through the full interior journey of questioning and doubting and weighing and finally arriving at the place where the answer is no longer a question. They have made a decision about you, about what they want, about what they are willing to do to have it, about what they are no longer willing to lose by staying silent and staying still and telling themselves that waiting is the same as preparing. The waiting is over. What is coming towards you right now is someone who has decided. And when someone has truly decided, when the decision lives in their bones rather than just in their mind, what follows is not hesitation. What follows is movement, specific, directed, aimed exactly at you. And it is coming sooner than you have let yourself believe, in a form that is going to leave very little room for ambiguity, in a form that says, without the possibility of misreading, I want to make this work. I want you. Can we meet? And the answer to that question, the one you have been carrying in your own quiet interior for longer than you have comfortably admitted, has never actually changed. Has it? Let me take you into what has been happening on their end. Because the decision that is now moving toward you did not arrive overnight. It did not surface suddenly from nowhere in a moment of impulsive feeling that may or may not survive the morning. It was built slowly, painstakingly, through a process that has been running in the private interior of their experience for a very long time. A process you have not had visibility into. A process that looked from the outside like nothing in particular. Like someone simply living their life, moving through their days, getting on with things, while underneath all of that ordinary forward motion, something was happening that was anything but ordinary. They were reckoning, not loudly, not in any way that required a witness. In the quiet, relentless, absolutely thorough way that real reckoning happens when someone is being genuinely honest with themselves rather than performing honesty for an audience. They were asking themselves the real questions, not the comfortable ones, the ones that implicate them, the ones that require an honest accounting of what they had, what they did with it, what they chose when they should have chosen differently, and what the cost of those choices has actually been. Not to you alone, to them, to their own life, to the version of their future that exists without you in it. They looked at that future honestly, really looked at it without the protective layer of telling themselves it was fine, that they would adjust, that the absence of you would eventually just become the new normal, and the new normal would eventually stop feeling like loss. They looked at it and they found that the looking was not comfortable, that the version of the future without you in it did not become more acceptable the longer they sat with it. It became less, more obviously incomplete, more clearly missing the specific thing that your presence provided, and that nothing else, no amount of time or distraction or reasonable moving forward, has been able to adequately replace. That reckoning is what produced the decision, and the decision is what is producing the movement toward you right now, with an intentionality that is unlike anything they have brought to this before. I want to tell you specifically what they want to say. Not the exact words, because the exact words are theirs and they have been choosing them carefully. But the substance, the essential content of what is building in them toward expression. They want to say that they understand now what they did not understand before. Not as an excuse, as a genuine arrived at cost them something acknowledgement. They understand what they had. They understand what they were given in you that they did not fully recognize while they were in the presence of it. The particular quality of what you brought, the specific way you showed up, the depth of what you were willing to offer, and the casualness with which they received it when they should have been honoring it. They understand that now. In the specific, located, this is not abstract way that understanding arrives when it has been earned through loss rather than given freely through insight. They want to say that they do not want to be someone who had something rare and treated it as ordinary, who was trusted with something genuine and did not rise to meet the trust, who looked back at a chapter of their life and saw, with painful clarity, the places where they could have been more and chose less instead. They do not want to be that person anymore. And they believe with a certainty that has been tested by everything they have tried in your absence that the version of themselves they want to be is the version that exists in relation to you. That you bring something out of them that nothing else does. That the particular quality of who they are when they are with you is the closest thing they have encountered to the version of themselves they actually want to live as. They want to say all of this and more. They have been composing it for longer than you know, drafting and revising and finding the language that feels true enough to carry what they need it to carry. And they are almost ready. The composition is nearly complete. And when it arrives, when the words finally make their way from where they have been living to the space between the two of you, you are going to feel the weight of everything that went into them. Every revision, every honest reckoning, every moment of choosing truth over comfort that built this message into something worthy of everything you went through. Now I need to address the word marriage, because it is in the energy of this reading with a specificity that I cannot responsibly soften or vagify into something safer and more general. It is there. It is real. And I want to talk about what it means in the context of what I am reading rather than in the abstract romantic sense that the word usually carries. What I am reading is not someone who has had a passing thought about a future with you, not someone who is entertaining the idea in a comfortable theoretical way that does not require any actual action. What I am reading is someone who has arrived through their own private process at a vision, a specific, detailed, this is what I want vision of a life that includes you not as a presence at the edges, but as the central, structuring, chosen commitment at the core. They have thought about what it would look like, what building something permanent with you would mean, what choosing you formally, completely, with the full weight of deliberate decision behind it would feel like. And the thinking about it does not produce in them the ambivalence or the fear or the resistance that the idea of that level of commitment has produced with other people in other contexts. It produces something else entirely. Clarity, a kind of settling, the specific feeling of something that is right rather than simply appealing, of something that makes sense at the level beneath where sense is made rationally, in the body. In the place where the deepest knowing lives, they know that a life built with you is what they want, not a version of it, not a trial of it, the real thing, with the real commitment, with the formal, declared, I am choosing you and I want everyone to know it quality that marriage in its truest form represents. That knowing is what is driving the movement. That is why the reaching out that is coming is not casual. It is not a test of the waters. It is not someone seeing if there is still something there before deciding how far they are willing to go. They already know how far they are willing to go. They are willing to go all the way. And what is coming toward you is the beginning of that all the way, finding its voice. Let me speak to the Virgo energy specifically, because there is something about how you are wired that is directly relevant to this moment, and I think naming it clearly is going to help you navigate what is coming with more grace than you might without the naming. You analyze, it is not a flaw, it is the architecture of how you process. You take in information and you examine it thoroughly before you arrive at conclusions. You look for the inconsistencies, the places where what is being presented does not quite match the full picture, the details that others miss because they are not looking with your particular quality of attention. This capacity has served you enormously throughout your life. It has protected you from things that your less analytical counterparts walked into without seeing. It has allowed you to make decisions with a thoroughness that produces genuinely good outcomes. And it is going to want to engage fully when this person reaches out. It is going to want to examine the reach from every angle, to look for the catch, to find the inconsistency that reveals this as something smaller than it appears, to protect you from the possibility of being moved by something that turns out to be less than what you allowed yourself to feel it was. I understand that impulse completely. I am not asking you to abandon it, but I am asking you to give it a slightly shorter leash than you usually do in this particular situation, because the analysis in this case is not going to find what it is looking for. It is not going to uncover an inconsistency that explains the reach as something manageable and ordinary and not worth the full response your heart is going to want to give. It is going to find, if it looks honestly, that this is what it appears to be. Someone who has done the work, someone who has arrived at the real version of what they feel, someone who is reaching with the full weight of genuine intention behind the reach. And when the analysis confirms that, when the examination comes back without the catch your protective mind was hoping to find, let yourself receive the confirmation. Let the analysis serve its purpose and then step aside and let the heart do what it has been waiting to do. I want to talk about the exact time because that phrase carries a particular kind of weight and I want to honor it properly. The idea that the timing of this is not vague, not eventually. not when conditions are right. Exact. And what I feel when I sit with that word in relation to your energy is this: there is a precision to what is approaching that is different from the imprecision of general good things coming. A quality of something that has been set in motion with a specific destination and a specific arrival point. Like something that has already been aimed and is now simply traveling toward its landing. The aim happened on their end. In the privacy of everything I have been describing, the reckoning and the deciding and the composing and the arriving at certainty, that was the aiming. And what follows aiming, when the aim is true and the intention is genuine and the person doing the aiming has the courage to follow through, is arrival. The call that is coming, the meeting that is being requested, the words that have been building toward expression are aimed at you with a specificity that is not going to miss, not going to land at a vague general distance from what matters, going to land exactly where it is intended to land, in the specific located place in you where this person has always lived, where they have been living quietly, persistently, through everything that has passed between the beginning of this and right now. That place, that is where what is coming is headed, and it knows the way. It has always known the way, because they have always known exactly where you are. I want to address something that I think is sitting in you right now as you listen to this. A particular kind of guardedness, not skepticism exactly, something more tender than skepticism. The guardedness of someone who has wanted this specific thing for long enough that wanting it has become painful, who has, on multiple occasions, allowed themselves to believe that this person was ready and found that the believing was premature, who has recalibrated their expectations downward as a form of self-preservation until the idea of fully believing in what I am describing right now feels like a risk they are not sure they can afford. I feel that guardedness clearly, and I want to say something about it that I hope lands with the gentleness it deserves. The protection you have built is valid. Every layer of it was built in response to something real. Every recalibration was a reasonable response to a real disappointment. You did not build those walls arbitrarily. You built them because they were necessary at the time. And I am not asking you to dismantle them all at once. I am not asking you to make yourself completely vulnerable before the evidence has arrived to justify the vulnerability. What I am asking is smaller than that. I am asking you to leave one window open, one small opening in the protection, not enough to expose you to something that could devastate you if it is not what it appears, but enough to let what is coming actually reach you, enough to feel the reaching when it arrives, enough to let the warmth of it find you before you have decided whether to allow yourself to feel it, because the warmth is real and it deserves to find you rather than arriving at a wall that was built for a version of this person that no longer exists. Let me tell you about what making it work actually means in the energy I am reading. Because that phrase, I want to make it work, carries different weight depending on who is saying it and what they mean by work. For some people, making it work means trying harder at the same things that were not working before. applying more effort to an unchanged dynamic and hoping the increased effort produces a different result. That is not what I am reading here. What I am reading is someone who understands that making it work requires something more fundamental than increased effort. It requires change, not surface change, not the performance of being different for long enough to get back what was lost. The real kind, the kind that happened in the private reckoning I described, the kind that does not require an audience to be real because it was done for no one but themselves and the honest truth of what they found when they looked clearly at who they had been and who they wanted to become. That change has happened. It is not something they are promising will happen. It has already happened in the interior. In the private process of the absence and the reckoning and the arriving at clarity, what you are going to encounter when they reach out is the external expression of an internal transformation that has already been completed, not a work in progress, a completion seeking its expression. And the expression, when it reaches you, is going to carry the unmistakable quality of something that is not being performed. Something that is simply true in the way that only things that have been genuinely earned through the full cost of honest transformation can be true. Here is something I want to name because I feel it very strongly and I think it belongs in this reading. There is a future that exists in the space just ahead of where you are standing. Not a vague, general, things will be better future. A specific one with a texture and a quality and a particular feeling that is distinct from anything you have experienced before. And it contains both of you. Not the versions of you that existed when this was at its most difficult. The current versions, the ones that have been shaped by everything that happened in between, by the distance and the reckoning and the growth that neither of you could have done inside the relationship, and that both of you needed to do outside of it. That future is not a fantasy. It is not wishful thinking dressed up in the language of destiny. It is the logical, the earned, the genuinely possible destination of two people who went through what you went through and came out the other side as the versions of themselves that were always needed to make this work. The work has been done on both sides in different ways, at different speeds, through different processes, but done. And the future that the done work makes possible is available now in a way it was not before. Genuinely available, not contingent on more growth or more time or more evidence that the change is real. Available right now to be walked into together with the full, clear-eyed, unromantic knowledge of what the other person is and the deliberate, courageous, fully informed choice to build something with them anyway, not despite what you know, because of it. Because knowing someone fully, including their capacity for the choices that cause pain, and choosing them anyway, is not naivety. It is the deepest, most adult, most genuinely brave form of love that exists. I want to close with what I feel most specifically, the thing that came through the clearest when I sat with your energy and the energy of this person and the energy of what is moving between you right now. This is not finished. That is what I feel, with a clarity that does not leave room for the comfortable equivocation of maybe or perhaps, or it is possible that this is not finished. What exists between you has not run its course. It has not arrived at its natural conclusion and found that the conclusion was separation. It has been interrupted by timing, by readiness that arrived in sequence rather than simultaneously, by the particular cruelty of two people who were right for each other not being ready for each other at the same time. But interruption is not conclusion. Interruption is a pause, and the pause is ending. The call is coming. The meeting is being requested. The words that have been building for longer than either of you probably knows are finding their way to the surface. And what they are carrying, those words, that call, that request for the meeting, is the most important thing this person has ever brought to you. More considered than anything before it, more honest, more entirely, specifically, unambiguously about the future rather than the past, about what could be built rather than what was lost, about the version of this that neither of you has experienced yet, because neither of you was ready for it until now. You are ready now, both of you, at the same time, finally, at the same time, and the exact moment of that simultaneous readiness finding its expression, the moment the call comes and the words arrive and the meeting happens, and two people who have been through everything you have been through look at each other with the full knowledge of everything that is true and say yes anyway, yes to trying, yes to building, yes to the life that becomes possible when two people finally, completely, without reservation, choose each other. That moment is coming. It is already on its way. And when it arrives, you are going to know that everything that came before it, every difficult chapter, every moment of distance and pain and waiting was not wasted. It was the price of admission to the version of this that was always worth everything.